Alright, hello everyone, and thank you for tuning in once again to the Black Box Podcast. BBOR, Black Box Online Radio, coming to you from West Virginia. Okay, so first of all, I would like to give a big shout out to Todd K, who was just posting an article on in the comments sections on one of our uploads here on BBOR, and he sent me something from the Napa Valley Register, and I'll post a link to it once we're done with the recording here. And it was really nice to hear some of the new info about the Lake Herman Road murders that the Zodiac committed. And it's like we're talking about David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen, and but of course the nice thing to hear about this one was this was the story of a woman named Lorraine DeGrout, Degrout, someone whom I hadn't heard of before, and she describes a possible encounter with the Zodiac killer also at Lake Herman Road, but much later on. What happens was she describes going there with someone and that she witnessed a man, with short blonde hair, wearing dark rimmed glasses, possibly military boots, and he's saying that he can't find his girlfriend. Can he help them? Can they help him find her? But the problem is, they said that he had no just he seemed very very calm. He said his girlfriend was lost in the lake, but there was no water on his clothes, like his clothes were dry, so he hadn't been trying to swim after her. They just seemed like his behavior was completely off. Was this a possible encounter with the Zodiac killer also at Lake Herman Road? Well, let's discuss it a little bit. What exactly is this Lake Herman Road area where there were two murders that were committed on December 20th, 1968? What exactly is it? Well, we've heard that this has been a lover's lane. In the Louis Myers theories, they really say that Louis Myers, if he indeed was the Zodiac killer, targeted this area specifically because he was jealous that he, you know, did not have a lover himself, so he targeted a lover's lane, and he actually killed two former classmates. I believe David Faraday was definitely his classmate, but perhaps Betty Lou was his classmate from a different school. Louis Myers, I confess, does have genuine connections to the victims. There isn't really an enormous amount of stretching the truth there. He worked with Darlene Ferrin in a restaurant, and he was a classmate of both of the victims of Lake Herman Road, if I recall correctly. But the real reason that I wanted to do this upload is not to talk about Louis Myers, it's to talk about Ross Sullivan, because Ross Sullivan he's one of the suspects that I find people want to discuss a little bit more on these Zodiac uploads. I mean, I'm getting a much stronger feeling for Ross Sullivan than I do for Louis Myers over the past couple months. I've developed that feeling. What I would say about that is that Ross Sullivan is somebody who he fits a lot of the pieces, but I mean, it's not really fitting exactly like a glove. But during my first upload ever on the case of Ross Sullivan, we mentioned that was Ross Sullivan able to drive a car? And someone responded that Ross drove a Volkswagen Bug. And apparently someone also responded that Sherry Joe Bates drove a Volkswagen Bug. And I was reading in this article from the Napa Valley Register that Lorraine DeGrout, this witness who possibly saw a man matching the Zodiac description at Lake Herman Road on a different date, says she saw a car which could very possibly have been a Volkswagen Bug. She's just seeing this very quickly. She's not completely certain, but she identifies it as possibly a Volkswagen Bug. So, I mean, I know that this would have been a very popular make and model. This would have been something very popular. But it's like, we just have to recognize that maybe indeed there was a Volkswagen Bug there, and that's something that's always we have to bear in mind. That's not exactly, like a smoking gun nailing Ross Sullivan on this, but that's definitely another connection. We have a witness describing a car that he possibly drove, and it's just something that's kind of almost becoming a new supporting point. But what I would really like to kind of wonder about is what are the other possibilities? Like, we're gonna have to go through some old records to really find out, like, the cars that, Lawrence Kane would have been driving, Richard Gaikowski would have been driving, because over the past couple months, I've really been kind of focusing in on those kind of four individuals: Ross Sullivan, Richard Gaikowski, Lawrence Kane, and Louis Myers. Although I did entertain the possibility for a while that Arthur Lee Allen was working with a partner. But I don't know, like this comment was left on one of my Ross Sullivan uploads, and I think that there really is a lot to explore with the case of Ross Sullivan. He definitely is somebody who is different. He is somebody who is kind of different from the other suspects in the sense that it just seems like that there is a high possibility that he would have committed murder. But the thing is, though, what we had was, I don't know, like when I'm reading this description that Lorraine DeGrout has put forward about Lake Herman Road, I was just getting the feeling that this is very genuine. I mean, if what unless you just take it off the table that she is just someone who researched the case and fabricated it so she could get mentioned in the Napa Valley Register, which I don't actually think she would have because it's not that big of an online publication. But it's like what I would say is that I didn't really feel like it was a false lead, like it was a false story. I think that this is a genuine encounter, that she saw what she says that she saw, that she was at Lake Herman Road, that she saw a man with dark rimmed glasses, short blonde hair, and that he was she describes him possibly wearing military boots, wearing a dark jacket. It really sounds like it could genuinely be the Zodiac killer, and if what she says is true, I would think that she did see the Zodiac. Now, there's some other things we have to bear in mind with that, though. Louis Myers, I've been talking about him. He didn't have blonde hair. Lawrence Kane as well. Both of them had rather dark hair, and yes, I'm aware that there are products out there, but I mean, I don't really know. Like, I mean, they seem to describe somebody who is blonde. Most of these Zodiac descriptions come across with somebody who has lighter hair, blonde hair. Well, who's that in our list of suspects that we've gone through just now? That's leaning toward Ross Sullivan again. I mean, that's something that I've always wondered, though. Even Richard Gaikowski, I mean, his hair is not dark, not that light. I mean, yes, he has very dark hair, and I'm aware you can buy products to dye, but like I have very dark hair myself, and it's like when you want to try and color dark hair, it doesn't always come out that easily. But when we're going to be dealing with this incident at Lake Herman Road that Lorraine DeGrout witnessed, once again, we're talking about something that happened, way after the Lake Herman Road murders, a second possible Lake Herman Road incident. She says she saw this man there, and he was asking about his girlfriend. He says he lost his girlfriend on the lake. Can you help me find her? And then they just had a horrible vibe. They're like, this guy says he lost his girlfriend in the lake, but his clothes aren't wet. He never went in to swim after her, and he also seems completely calm. They had a horrible vibe, so they got away from him. If like if what they're saying actually happened, I would think that that is an encounter with the Zodiac. And once again, I'll post a link to this article from the Napa Valley Register that I was just reading. But that sort of tells me that if we have to get some of this information from the article, man with blonde hair, dark rimmed glasses, military boots, Volkswagen Bug, on site. That is sort of saying that, I don't know, that sounds a lot like Ross Sullivan, more so than any other Zodiac suspect we've talked about on this channel. I mean, it's not 100%, absolutely not. There could be other things that are involved, like there could be other reasons why, like you might there could be new information that would come up in the future, is what I'm trying to say. But one of the things we really have to do recognize, like, is how are we going to start eliminating suspects? Because I found on this channel, the more I talk about suspects, the more kind of vast and open ended this becomes. And somebody left a comment, I believe it was from the one, and he like the one was saying that anything is possible with the Zodiac mystery. Like, no matter which suspect you're going to be putting up there, anything is like seems to fit somewhat well. So it's like I'm gonna keep exploring this one, and one of the things that I mentioned that I would like to say again is just that we would like to find out which people were driving what car. I think that's something we could explore and examine. What was Gaikowski's car? What was Lawrence Kane's? Ross Sullivan's, Louis Myers? How do they have access to all these cars? Especially, we can also look for firearms if anything's registered to anybody. But we always have to bear in mind, though, that people can also steal things. I mean, that someone was asking on the Louis Myers uploads, how would have someone, Louis Myers, who would have been under 21 years old, been able to get access to handguns? Well, the same way that any teen shooter gets access to handguns, they take them from somebody. Um, but it'd be something that we can explore a little bit more, and I would like to get to the point where we can start eliminating suspects and then be like, I don't think this guy is so likely. Alright, well, that's all for me now. We're going to explore this a little bit more, and I really recommend that everybody read this article from the Napa Valley Register that I'll post in the description box in just a second. It's some good food for thought, and it's a good way to kind of explore something else about the Zodiac mystery.